December 12, 1940. The German Army main office in Zorsund, Germany. Colonel Walter Warlimont, the second in command for planning, gave the new information report about America's factory power to the gathered German top officers. The report, based on wide-ranging spying, rejected America's making ability with careful detail. American factories were set up for everyday items. American workers had no background in making war gear, and America's backup plans to use women in war production showed a deep problem with workers. German army spies had put together careful records showing American military making at very small amounts, about 300 planes each month, fewer than 20 tanks, and almost no army trucks. The United States Army ranked 17th globally in size behind Romania. These facts shaped German battle plans as they got ready for a long fight. Before we continue, show your support by subscribing and letting me know where you're watching from. What German war planners did not understand was that 4,500 miles away, a factory change was starting that would bury the German army under a huge pile of metal. The American women they thought of as unimportant would soon produce more military equipment each month than Germany managed in 3 months. The everyday items factories they scorned would start the world's biggest ever factory effort. Within 24 months, German spy officers would watch American production numbers with rising worry as outputs went past every guess. The great change in American making things, especially the effort by millions of American women, would turn out to be more ruinous to Nazi Germany than any loss on the fight ground. German battle plans in 1940 were based on full information about American abilities. German army checkers had exactly right data. American plane making averaged 300 units monthly. Tank making was still only tests. Military vehicle making was next to nothing. The U.S. Army had 269,000 soldiers, poorly outfitted by European standards. These guesses were exactly right in 1940. German battle plans papers kept in the German Military Record Office reveal an ordered study of American making ability. German Army money experts figured that changing American consumer production to military output would take 3 to 5 years based on German experience. They noted American factories ran just one 8-hour shift. Workers asked for weekends off, and labor groups limited changes in how fast they could make things. American backup plans included hiring women for factory work, seen as feeling desperate rather than as a strong point. The German top officers' report showed how things worked in Europe, where factory switching had taken years of getting ready. German building up weapons that started in private in 1933 took 6 years to get a lot of war equipment made. France's try at factory effort from 1939 to 1940 had gone wrong completely. British production, despite 18 months of war, stayed small. These earlier events guided German thinking about American abilities. But German checkers measured American potential through European restrictions. They couldn't picture a factory system that could teach millions of workers in weeks, build factories from empty fields in months, or spur workers through loving their country and helping freely. Most critically, they couldn't imagine that American women without factory background would become experts in exact production faster than trained German workers. May 1940 completely changed American factory plans. As France fell apart and Britain was by itself, American factory heads began getting ready for war. President Roosevelt's request for 50,000 planes each year started huge changes in American manufacturing. William Knudsen, president of General Motors, took the job as head of the group that runs making things. His first steps changed everything in the American factory way of life. Rivals such as Ford, Chrysler, Packard, and Studebaker agreed to give out private making methods, production steps, and special tools. In Germany, where large factory groups closely guarded their strong points, such working together was not thinkable. The car-making business plan to switch over began 18 months before Pearl Harbor. Detroit bosses made decisions in June 1940 that would change fighting forever. They made all the parts the same for all companies, shared special equipment, and taught workers different skills. Henry Ford at first didn't want to make plane engines, changed his mind, saying his company would learn what it didn't know. At the same time, a big change in society was starting across America. Women began signing up for metal joining classes, lessons on reading building plans and learning how to measure things exactly completely by themselves. By September 1940, thousands were getting ready for factory work without government programs or hiring campaigns. Training schools reported never-before-seen numbers of women signing up. The Bullard Havens Technical School in Connecticut, which had never let women in, suddenly faced hundreds of requests. Like patterns appeared nationwide as women guessed what workers would be needed before official notice. December 7, 1941 completely changed American life right away. The Japanese attack started a factory effort bigger than anyone had guessed. Within 48 hours, hiring offices nationwide were filled up with people wanting to help. Mostly women. The Boeing plant in Seattle shows how fast this change happened. On December 6, 1941, Boeing had about 8,000 workers, mostly men. By January 1, 1942, the number of workers had doubled, with women making up most of the new workers. By June 1943, Boeing would hire 45,000 workers, with women doing most of the putting together work. German spies, watching America's war effort using countries that weren't fighting, at first ignored the stated goals for making things. The U.S. said plans for 60,000 planes in 1942, 125,000 in 1943. German checkers, whose nation made 12,000 planes yearly, said these numbers were just lies. What German checkers did not understand was the big change in how American factories worked. Frederick Taylor's factory work rules, improved by Charles Sorensen at Ford, split hard work into simple jobs that could be done again and again. Instead of teaching workers to build full parts, American factories taught them for specific actions. A woman might learn to drill 6 exact holes, put in certain metal pins, or hook up special wires. Working together, hundreds doing specific jobs could complete dozens of planes daily. By March 1942, American factories were reaching making speeds that the Germans couldn't grasp. The Willow Run factory, which wasn't even there a year before, was nearing the end of building on 3.5 million square feet of old farm fields. Meant to hire 42,000 workers making B-24 bombers, it would be the biggest building for making things anywhere. German spy reports from spring 1942 show they just didn't believe American production claims. German army-making experts figured that making a big bomber needed at least 4,000 hours of skilled work from a man. Americans saying they would eventually build one every 63 minutes were called something that couldn't possibly happen. But at Willow Run, new ways of making things were reaching never-before-seen speed. The factory worked as a huge putting-together line with bombers moving through 1,600 workstations. Women did most jobs: drilling, metal pinning, joining metal, putting in wires using air-powered tools that German factories didn't have. They finished parts in minutes that took hours using older ways. Rose Wilman Monroe, a worker at Willow Run, was one of the several women who led to the famous Rosie the Riveter picture, running air-powered metal pin setters. She and her team finished main body parts in 45 minutes that German workers needed 8 hours to finish. By April 1944, Willow Run was finishing one B-24 every 63 minutes during peak making time. The plant would finally make 8,685 B-24 bombers. American women's role in war production went completely against the core Nazi belief. German teaching said women should only be in house jobs. The idea of women making arms wasn't just thought to be impractical. It meant the race was falling apart. Yet by mid-1942, American women were showing amazing abilities. At the Douglas Aircraft Plant in Long Beach, California, women made up 40% of the workers by 1943, making things faster than the men who worked there before the war through careful teaching and better ways of working. The Richmond shipbuilding places in California had 90,000 workers at the busiest time, with women making up 27% of the workers and 41% of those who joined metal. These workers built Liberty ships in average times of 45 days, with the SS Robert E. Peary finished in 4 days, 15 hours, and 29 minutes in November 1942. German boat builders took 300 days for like boats. Women were great at working exactly in jobs thought to be too hard for women to do before. At the Sperry Gyroscope Company, women put together bomb aimers that needed to be correct to 1/10,000th of an inch. Their careful hands and close focus were better than those of trained experts. Norma Jean Dugarty, who later became Marilyn Monroe, worked at the Radio Plane Weapons Factory from late 1944, checking silk chutes and putting together pilotless planes. She stood for millions of women who entered factories without a factory background, yet quickly became skilled at difficult jobs. By August 1942, American production was reaching levels that meant Germany was sure to lose based on the numbers. Plane making neared 4,000 monthly, matching what Germany made in 3 months every single month. The United States made more Army trucks weekly than Germany managed each month. The U.S.-American bombing report wrote down the huge difference in making things clearly. In 1942, America produced 47,136 planes versus Germany's 15,493. By 1944, American production hit 96 to 318 planes while Germany managed 40,593. Despite becoming faster, tank making showed like differences. The Detroit Arsenal started making nearly 900 Sherman tanks each month by December 1942. German tank making for all models averaged 500 monthly in 1942. America could bring in new tanks faster than Germany could wreck them. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel saw America's huge amount of gear up close in North Africa. His messages to Berlin all through 1942 reported fighting against a massive amount of gear. For every tank wrecked, multiple new ones showed up. American supplies seemed never-ending, while German forces used resources that were tightly limited. Boeing's B-17 Flying Fortress production showed the power of American factories. Boeing's Seattle plant hired 45,000 workers by mid-1943, with a lot of women working after big efforts to hire people started in June 1943. They reached making 16 B-17s daily. The total from Boeing, Douglas, and Lockheed gave out bombers quicker than people could be taught to fly them. By early 1943, American bomber groups grew larger monthly despite German fighter plane wins. The German Air Force faced not a small number of planes, but an endless flow of them. German fighter pilots said their work was useless. Adolf Galland, leading German fighter forces, later agreed that by 1943 the air war was lost. American production had made winning out of reach no matter how well they fought each battle. Liberty ship construction showed American making power strongly. The shipping group said they would build boats faster than German subs could sink them, a promise that seemed too hard to keep because the subs were so good. Admiral Karl Dunitz's guesses showed Americans needed to build 200 ships yearly to replace losses, more than he thought the whole world could make. But American boat-building places would send out 2,651 Liberty ships during the war using new ways of doing things. The Kaiser shipbuilding places changed how boats were built through making parts ahead of time and putting them together on a line ways. Ships were built in parts, then quickly put together. Women who joined metal took the place of the old-style metal pin setters, making the building time much shorter. Parts were made in huge numbers, then put together at a speed never seen before. By May 1943, American boat-building places sent out 3 Liberty ships daily, while German subs averaged sinking one every 3 days. Admiral Dönitz pulled back submarines from the Atlantic, giving up and saying that America's making of goods had won the sub-war. The Douglas aircraft plant in Santa Monica hired 44,000 workers around the clock by 1943, making 360 C-47 transport planes monthly, more than all of Germany's moving planes put together. Women did not just put things together, but offered ideas for better workflow that made things faster. Their help increased output while making the quality better through careful small improvements. American plane making achieved making huge numbers of items with better accuracy than things made by hand. Every part went through very strict checking and looking over. Fewer parts were thrown out than at German facilities despite much faster making speeds. The Lockheed plant showed that complicated planes could be made in huge numbers. The P-38 Lightning, one of the hardest to build fighter planes of that time, was mainly put together by women who had just learned the job, who built complex planes that were just as good as Germany's the Detroit Arsenal, began making things in 1941 on 113 acres in Warren, Michigan. By late 1942, it neared 900 M4 Sherman tanks every month, more than all of Germany's tank making put together. Women ran huge machines that shaped thick metal shields, exact turning tools, shaping parts, and big lifting machines, moving 30-ton gun towers. They became experts with flame tools, hooking up shield pieces and checking for mistakes, making sure they were ready for war. German tank making ran into basic problems. The Tiger tank, better one by one, needed a lot of hand-done shaping. Germany produced 354 Tigers during the whole war. America produced 49,234 Shermans. Having a lot more tanks beat having better quality tanks. General Heinz Guderian saw that the American tanks they captured rarely broke down, and their parts could be swapped easily. Every Sherman used parts that could be swapped, while German tanks needed parts only for one type of tank. American making huge numbers of items, made war tools that were easy to keep running. The Rock Island Weapons Factory showed American production, going up from 500 guns each month in 1940. Production reached 5,000 M1 Garand rifles daily by 1943, with women making up over half the workers. Women ran many shaping machines at the same time, making parts with very few parts thrown out. Their accuracy was better than the Army's rules while keeping up making speeds never seen before. American soldiers carried M1 Garand guns that fired quickly, giving them more shooting power. German soldiers used older-style bolt-action guns, pretty much the same as in the First World War. The big difference in shooting power grew across all the armies. Bullet making had the same kind of strong points. The Lake City ammunition plant, mostly run by women, made 60 million bullets weekly by 1943, more than Germany's monthly production. Making aluminum showed the huge difference in available materials clearly. Germany produced 250,000 tons in 1942, using up every last bit of material. America produced 920,000 tons with room to grow. Alcoa's Tennessee facilities, run by water-power dams from the TVA, hired women running electric furnaces using massive amounts of electricity. Each furnace made enough aluminum every day for many planes. German aluminum not having enough forced more use of steel and wood in planes, making them heavier and fly less well. American planes used a lot of aluminum, making them fly further, faster, and carry more, which led right to being better in the fight. American making huge numbers of items reached a level of quality better than old-style hand-making, through checking for mistakes using numbers, created by Walter Schuhart and W. Edwards Deming. Evenness that hand-making couldn't reach became normal. At Pratt & Whitney's Connecticut plant, women checkers kept up a level better than German requirements. Every part was checked many times, making sure every part could be swapped out for another. Packard Motor Company, building Rolls-Royce Merlin engines with permission, made the British plans better through figuring out how to make them in a factory. American-made engines were better than the rules called for while being produced at unprecedented rates. American war production relied on travel systems moving supplies exactly on time. Women had key jobs in everything from running trains to planning how to move gear. The number of women working on the trains grew from 4,000 in 1940 to 104,000 by 1944. They ran the track-switching areas, kept up the rails, and planned all the moving of supplies, moving millions of tons each month. The Pennsylvania Railroad alone moved more goods every day than all of Germany's trains combined. This speed meant American factories never stopped for shortages. Basic stuff moved easily to the factories, while German factories often stopped, waiting for materials despite shorter distances. American war production occurred at the same time as people at home were doing well. While Germany faced more and more hardship, Americans made everyday items throughout the war while making more military gear than Germany. Germany gave 70% of production to war by 1943. American military spending never went over 40% while still making more. The difference was how much they could make. American workers reached high output levels through working fast in an organized way. Studies of time and movement, better making processes, and ideas from workers kept making things faster. Women running automated machines made more than multiple skilled workers using old ways. When you counted millions of workers, the difference in how much they made won the war. At Electric Boat Shipyard in Connecticut, women made up 40% of the people building subs by 1943. They built big subs in 180 days, while German subs took 300 days, even though they were easier to build. Women who joined metal worked in small areas, speeding up the building a lot. Their ability to work in tight spots increased construction speed substantially. American submarine production made more than German subs by 1943. American subs were bigger, better at their job, and with better gear. The boats that wrecked Japanese ocean travel were built by people who hadn't built boats before. Radar and electronics production showed the strong points of American making power. At Raytheon, women put together hard-to-make radar units in numbers Germany could not come close to. American radar production reached thousands monthly by 1943. Every ship, many planes, and many places on land had radar, while German forces had just a few sets for huge areas. Western Electric, mostly hiring women, made 100,000 Army radios each month by 1944. American forces had better talking power at every level, from small group radios to big Army communication systems. The Holston Weapons Factory hired 40,000 people, 70% women, making RDX bomb material. They made more bomb material in 1943 than Germany made in the whole war. Ways of keeping safe were better than German rules despite dangerous materials. Women had fewer accidents through organized steps and teaching while handling materials. German beliefs said this was too unsafe for women to do. American artillery shot endless rounds while German guns saved their bullets. The production difference came from factories where women produced explosives, making saving them unnecessary. Making penicillin showed how good America was. From enough medicine for 100 cures in 1942, production got to the point of 100,000 cures each month. By 1944, German soldiers passed away from sickness. American doctors fixed them all the time. Making doctor tools went up sharply between 1941 and 1944. Women at Becton Dickinson and like places made medicine in amounts that meant hurt American. Soldiers got better care than German field hospitals could give. Making blood plasma, set up through the Red Cross with mostly women workers, saved huge numbers of people. American wounded lived through their injuries at a rate never seen before, while German hurt soldiers ran into problems with not enough medicine. When Japan took Southeast Asian rubber, America started making fake rubber from scratch. By 1944, facilities run mostly by women made 737,000 tons each year, versus Germany's 110,000 to 120,000 tons at their highest. Lab workers found ways to make fake rubber better than real rubber for specific uses. New ideas were shared across all factories, making the benefits much bigger. German trucks broke down because of bad tires, while American trucks kept going. The production difference meant millions of extra tires compared to German tire having to save every tire. The Army Supply Group recorded that American soldiers had the best gear ever. Women in cloth factories made 100 million outfits, 500 million pairs of socks, 60 million boots. At silk chute factories, women stitched exactly where being right meant staying alive. Each parachute needed thousands of exact seams with almost none being thrown out. German soldiers faced Russian winters in summer outfits, while Americans got special clothes for every climate. The difference came from cloth factories where women made proper equipment for everyone. Making radios showed they were masters of making huge numbers of items. Motorola's 14,000 workers, mostly women, made the SCR 300, the first FM portable military radio at 50,000 units monthly. By 1944, every American squad had radios while German companies shared single sets. Better talking power created by women gave them an edge in small fights, making up for not having as much fighting time. Bausch and Lomb's 9,000 workers, mostly women, made more than all of Germany's lens companies, including Zeiss and Leica put together. They made viewing tools, distance finders, and bomb aimers in amounts never seen before. American forces had never-ending lens equipment while German forces valued single items highly. Having better gear everywhere came from places where women were better than old-style handworkers through organized ways. American trucks rarely broke down because spare parts were easy to get. Women at Delco Remy and like places made millions of small parts. Spark plugs, batteries, generators, keeping everything running. Every American vehicle had extra parts that German trucks didn't. Fixing things before they broke became normal, while Germans tore apart broken trucks to fix others. The difference made how ready for a fight they were go way up. American fuel production was huge compared to German efforts to make fake fuel. Women at Texas oil plants made 100-octane plane fuel, giving planes an edge in power. German pilots flew with lower quality fuel when they could find it. American pilots taught to fly without worrying about running out of gas, while German training was very restricted. Experience differences came from oil plants where women made unlimited high-quality fuel. Captured German documents show how it messed with their minds to face American huge amounts of gear. Soldiers' letters wrote about so much stuff that it killed their fighting spirit before the fighting even started. German lies couldn't cover up the truth of what the soldiers were seeing up close. Every place they took showed tons of stuff, proving their beliefs wrong. Soldiers quit trusting the lies after seeing how much gear America had. Operation Overlord showed their unmatched making power clearly. The attack force of 5,000 boats and 11,000 planes were mostly built in the previous 18 months by workers, mostly women. German soldiers fighting back faced so much gear that fighting was useless based on the numbers. 20 American shells for every German shell, 50 planes for every German plane. Being brave didn't matter when facing so much shooting power. American Army groups used 1,000 tons of gear every day compared to German 30 tons. The difference came from places where women produced abundance, making continued work possible. While giving gear to Europe, America also fought across the Pacific with just as much gear. Admiral Yamamoto had guessed only 6 months before American strength prevailed. He guessed way too low, making the Essex-class large ships showed their power. These 27,000-ton large ships were built in 20 months versus Japan's 4 years. America built 24. Japan managed 6 during the whole war. Women at Newport News built large ships using putting together line methods. Boats that had to be handmade in other places were made in huge numbers in an organized way. By 1944, American bomber production allowed attacks with 1,000 planes. The 8th Air Force alone flew more big bombers than Germany's total wartime production. Women at Boeing consolidated Douglas and North American made 96,318 planes in 1944. Germany managed 40,593 despite becoming faster. The math that proved they owned the sky was created by American women. German intelligence always guessed too low for American production because their way of thinking could not imagine women as trained workers. Their old ideas about society stopped them from seeing the truth. Reports after the war show they completely ignored correct information. Checkers usually lowered the numbers a lot, thinking it was impossible to make that much stuff with women working. Field commanders knew better from seeing it. By late 1944, not enough gas stopped German forces while Americans used fuel abundantly. German tanks sat still. American tanks kept running. Having planes decided what they could do in a fight. American supply planning moved gear quickly from factories to the fighting areas. Women ran the supply lines, moving millions of tons each month to the exact places needed all over the world. The difference in gear was huge. American soldiers used 67 pounds of gear every day compared to German 4 pounds. Organized making and moving of goods meant nothing ran out. American way of bringing in new gear kept the Army groups strong all the time. Broken or lost gear was swapped out right away. Missing soldiers were quickly replaced. German Army groups got weaker and weaker while American ones got stronger. The system for teaching new soldiers kept sending them out continuously. Army groups were fixed right after a fight while German groups never got back to full power once they lost men. The Battle of the Bulge showed how much more gear they had clearly. Despite surprise, Americans had better gear than the Germans who had been getting ready for months. American soldiers had full winter gear while Germans tried to make do desperately. Production planning guessed what was needed in an organized way. American artillery shot many shells at once while German artillery desperately saved their shells at bullet factories run mostly by women. America produced shells in millions while Germany managed thousands. Having lots of radios allowed teamwork that Germans couldn't do. Women made Army radios, ensuring every group had multiple sets while Germans shared individual radios. American wounded lived through their injuries at a rate never seen before through medicine produced abundantly. Plasma, drugs, and surgical supplies were everywhere for everyone, while German medical services faced constant shortages. The difference in having trucks changed the war. America's 2.5-ton trucks made at 800,000 units gave them the power to move, while German forces used old horse transport that was falling apart. Planes for moving gear allowed them to keep fighting anywhere. Women at Douglas built 10,000 C-47s, changing how the Army moved gear. Groups that were cut off got gear forever, while when Germans were surrounded, it meant giving up. Fighting builders had tools that gave them a huge edge. Large digging machines made by women allowed fast building while Germans used hand tools. Finding enemy secrets worked because of machines made in huge numbers by women at NCR and IBM. Thousands of counting machines made people's ability to figure things out grow huge amounts. Radar could see everywhere through making huge numbers of them at Raytheon and Western Electric. Being able to spot things took away the chance of a surprise attack in an organized way. American soldiers got nice things all the time. Smokes, sweets, books, keeping their spirits up. German soldiers got nothing for a long time. Production gave gear to soldiers and people at home at the same time. Soviet and British leaders agreed American production's key role. Stalin raised a glass to American production at Tehran. Churchill understood from the start that American industry would win the war. The Studebaker trucks moving Soviet forces, the Liberty ships keeping Britain alive, the planes equipping Allied air forces, all made mostly by American women whose help won the war completely. American war production numbers stay amazing. 296,000 planes, 193,000 large guns, 86,000 tanks, 2.6 million machine guns, 6 million tons of aircraft bombs, 434 million tons of steel, 2.6 million army trucks, 50 million tons of bullets. Women made up to 65% of aircraft plant workers, 40% in certain boat-building places, 55% in bullet factories. Their ability to make things went past every guess. U.S.-American bombing report talk showed that Germans all agreed that American production, especially by women workers, made winning out of reach from 1943 onward. Field Marshal Kesselring said, "American huge amounts of gear made fight plans useless." Colonel General Jodl stated, "Germany lost to factory power, not loss in the fight." The guessing too low of American production power, especially women's abilities, turned out to be the fatal wrong step. The women who built victory changed society forever. Having shown they could do anything, they refused to go back to how things were before the war. Ways of making things faster they created became the base for good times after the war. Their individual help, Roswell Monroe at Willow Run, thousands at Douglas and Boeing, those who joined metal at Richmond shipyards, came together to create the arsenal of democracy. Each stood for millions whose work won the war. American desire to succeed and methods reached what German force couldn't. Women worked for victory, wages, and self-respect. Getting high output through organized teaching and continuous improvement that forced labor never came close to. Production methods created by women changed the world's factories. Splitting hard jobs into steps that could be learned came from places where women showed old skills were not needed for quality. American women's wartime role changed society beyond any laws. Their difference with German women who were pushed aside showed how using everyone's talent beat beliefs that kept people restricted. Making huge numbers of items reached a level of quality better than old-style handmaking through organized ways. Women made things exactly that made fighting more effective through gear that worked all the time. The story shows lessons that last about what people can do. German military planners couldn't think that a free country would make more than a harsh government, that women were as good as men in factories, that freedom made people try harder than force. Their not seeing women's abilities was a sign of their beliefs failing, making sure they lost. They measured American potential by German restrictions, ignoring as impossible what became normal. American women showed victory belongs to those using all talents no matter the gender. When German generals rejected American women workers in 1940, they guaranteed their defeat. When those women made more than the entire Axis, beliefs faced ruinous reality. The final judgment was delivered by millions of American women who proved freedom, when put into action, made power that a harsh government can't equal. They built victory one part at a time, setting up the basis for the world after the war. Their lasting impact is more than just winning the war. It shows what happens when need forces us to break made-up walls.